Welcome back for a new special 10 list. This time, like last time, it's not going to be a top 10. This is going to be specifically another price charting list. This time, looking and price charting and my thoughts on it, starting with looking at prices of each specific game, the price at the time in January 2021, and then January 2022. And then any stuff next month will be based on February each year. In order to try to get more up to date numbers, this is not a top 10, so there's only 10. There is no specific honorable mentions of any kind. I, at random, decide to choose a variety of games looking at prices, so not all of them are going to be overpriced or expensive. Some are actually very reasonably priced. It just goes to show how very much roller coaster. And this time I chose the PlayStation 1 and specifically a genre of games. I chose platformers, or predominantly 3D platformers of the PS1 era. Next time, I will probably be looking in the future when I do another one of these price charting game ones. I'm planning on looking at specifically fighting games from the PS2 era. So stay tuned for that. But with that said, first up, the 10th game, I chose arguably one of the most beloved 3D platformers of the PS1 era, of course, and that being Spyro the Dragon. And I chose the first game to look at, specifically because it is considered quite iconic. Spyro the Dragon, base price as of January last year, the overall average price for Spyro, according to PriceCharting.com, it was going for $19.30. Relatively cheap, especially given it's a very popular game. Now, this year, in January of last month, it was going for on average turning around $17.50. So it actually has gone down just below a little less than $2 in drop from 1 year to year. I think it's very reasonable. Right now, my own personal opinion, do I think it's going to go up, down, or stay relatively level? For Spyro, I think it's going to stay relatively level overall. I don't really see it go skyrocketing up or going down a lot. I think since popular, it is probably going to teeter between the $15-$20 range, at least for a while to come. And I don't see the price skyrocketing, mostly because this is a relatively common PS1 game, as well as the fact that you can get the Reignite trilogies that decreases the necessary interest in collecting. I feel this game specifically, since there are more copies of this than the two sequels. And overall, the price you can get this for on average, brand new sealed, surprisingly very affordable to at least some people. But on average, it's going for new around $87.50, which is relatively cheap compared to some other games. Speaking of, next up, we are looking at another classic of this era. Now, funny enough, you can get the sequel to this game digitally on PSN, and I think it's also available on PlayStation Now, but weirdly enough, the original game is not. So, this game has gone up a little bit over time, not a huge amount, but next up we're looking at Ape Escape, which is a classic, though I would say some people will argue Ape Escape 2 is better, which is probably why it's actually been digitally ported to other consoles, why you can get it on PS3, and you can play on PlayStation Now for PS4. But Ape Escape, on average, as of January last year, it was going for on average around $34, and as of this year, it's hovering just below $37. So it's gone up close to $3 from last year. Where do I see it right now? Honestly, I see Ape Escape like Spyro. I think it's going to stay relatively level. I don't see it skyrocketing up nor do I see it really dropping. It seems to be holding its value relatively well in the $30 range area. Specifically, though, like 34 to around 37 now, I would say it's going to stay around the 30 some dollar range area for a little while to come. It is a bit more rare than, say, Spyro in actual copies sold physically, but since you can play it, I don't remember if you can get digitally on PS3, but I know, like I said, through digital stuff, you can play Ape Escape 2 on modern console. So, I think that will help keep Ape Escape Steel from going too expensive, though. It is weird they chose Ape Escape 2, making it more available, maybe because people consider it better, I'm not sure. I don't know overall opinion on Ape Escape games personally. It's been years since I played that game. But overall, on average, if you're wanting a new copy right now, a new copy is selling for around the range of $149. Relatively pricier, obviously, than Spyro, but that's because it is a little bit rarer, and there's probably 2 or 3 times as many copies of Spyro as there is Ape Escape. Still, I think for why its Ape Escape price range is not insanely overpriced. I think it's relatively reasonable or okay. Um, Next up, we're looking at one of my personal favorite games from the PS1, and that is, though I personally prefer the sequel a little bit more, but next up, we're looking at Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, which would be the first installment in the, of course, now very much cult classic series of the Oddworld franchise, though we would get many others in the future. My personal favorite, Oddworld, Abe's Exodus, and of course also greats like Stranger's Wrath, which is great. Muncher's Odyssey, I'm kind of 50-50 on, and I still need to play Soulstorm more, but from what I have played, I like it, though I kind of have mixed feelings overall so far for the newest game. But Abe's Odyssey is where it all started. I would say the demand for Abe's Odyssey is not huge. More people, I feel, are interested in actually probably Abe's Exodus as it is the superior game. But still, it's not super rare. Abe's Odyssey, I mean, still sold like between like 1 and 2 million copies, so it's not a super uncommon game to find. Finding it complete and original like Black Case, not greatest hits, good luck, but still not expensive. January of last year, like the average price for Abe's Odyssey was around $17.20. This year, it is going for right now about $17.60, so it's gone up 40 cents. Now, where do I think it's going to go? Like the last two, I think once again it's going to stay very level overall in sales numbers, in my opinion, and the price online. Now, with that said, that's my opinion, but I think still there's enough copies online right now to keep it under the $20 range. I mean, it could end up going above $20, but I don't see it really going up that much. But yeah, for now, and there's not a huge high demand for Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, especially since you can get the improved version for modern consoles called New and Tasty, of course, which you can get new on the Switch for like $30, brand new. So, yeah, there's not as huge a demand for the original PlayStation games, which is fine, I think, for collectors anyways. That's a good thing. New, on average, a new copy of Oddworld Abe's Odyssey right now will set you back $102. Not as expensive as some of the other stuff, still a bit pricey, but overall not bad for a PS1 brand new. Next up, we're looking at a game that is a personal favorite of mine of 3D platformers. I think somewhat, unfortunately, forgotten about, I think because of games like Spyro and Crash and others. But that is, in my opinion, the classic Croc. Now, looking back last year, on average, Croc was going for about $10 even. This year, last time I checked, Croc was going for on average about $12.50. So it's gone up $2.50 since last year. But Still very affordable. I mean, given that last year was going for like $10. But yeah, I can honestly say that it's going for pretty reasonable because I picked up like Croc not too long ago and I paid, I believe, something like, I think I paid about like $14, $15, though the copy I got was mint. So, and still very cheap and affordable. In fact, you can get mint for under $20. I think that says enough right there. I think it's a great 3D platformer to collect for. If you're interested in getting 3D platformers for PS1, Croc is definitely at the top. I would recommend. It's affordable, it's a fun game. It definitely has nostalgia for me, so admitted bias on that. Now, if you're wanting a brand new copy of Croc, well, the prices are not insane, believe it or not. You can get a brand new sealed copy of Croc for about $56. Arguably, that is probably about the cheapest on this list, new. Next up, we're going to see quite a hefty price increase for the next game, on average, and that is the classic cult popular game called Tomba. Now, the great thing about this game is you can get it digitally on the PlayStation Store. Specifically, you can get it on PS3 and PS Vita. Now, if you have a PS3 and you haven't bought, I recommend trying to get Tomba 1 and 2 digitally if you can, because it's going up. Tomba 2 is more expensive than the first Tomba because it's even more rare. Though the first one still managed to be a greatest hits game, it's a very high demand, like 2.5D platformer. It's very unique for its kind, I will say that. It's definitely a game I remember playing a lot on demo disc back in the day on my old demo disc PlayStation Underground that I used to be subscribed to. But on average last year, Tomba was going for about $127.50 on average. This year, it has skyrocketed. It has gone up now. Right now, at this time, 1 year later, it's going for about $170. So it has gone up well over $40. And right now, where do I see Tomba going? Honestly, I see Tomba going up in price right now. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, and the fact it's been pretty steady going up, even before the whole nuttiness of, well, of the whole COVID thing that started back in 2012. The fact is, still, nevertheless, this game was going for at that time about like $70 to $80 range, so it was already going on its way to the $100 range. But after that whole lockdown, everything happened, price just went up probably 2 or 3 times faster, obviously. But nevertheless, it still was already one of the pricier games on the console. So if you're curious, again, a new copy, good luck. On average, a new copy seems to be going for around $510. So it's arguably very expensive. But like I said, unless you're a hardcore collector of platformers, I'd recommend going with the digital version, and the fact you can get the digital version, I believe, for something like $6 each game. So yes, I highly recommend just getting the PS3 digital version. It's a better option, in my opinion. Next up, we're going to look for another one that is going up in price a little bit. It's not as insane as, say, Tomba. This is another game that I have some nostalgia for, though it has been a long time since I played the game. I would love to get this for my platformer collection, as well as PS1 collection. This is a game I do have pretty good memories of, though I do remember it did have a lot of glitch issues on occasion, and issues with the hitboxes and stuff, jumping from one platform to the other. Still, I did enjoy it for what it was in its uniqueness. It was called Jersey Devil. Very interesting platformer from the PS1 era. A lot of people have forgotten about the game, though there's been a few bigger retro game YouTubers that have been talking about this game, and I think that's one of the reasons it's gone up a little bit over time, as well as the fact bigger platformer gamer on YouTube, Nitro Rad, did a video on it not too long ago. If you're curious about Jersey Devil, check it out. Unfortunately, you cannot find this digitally on the store, which is not good, which is why I think the price will continue slowly going up. It's not skyrocketing like Tomba, but still it is staying relatively consistent. Last year, Jersey Devil was trending for around $57, and this year it's going for about $62. So it saw a $5 increase over the past year. Do I see it going up still? Continue? Yes, like I said, it's going up a very steady incline. It's not going down anytime soon, in my opinion. I would say if you're curious about the game, try get a good deal if you can soon, because I do think it's going to go up more by the end of this year. If it goes on its current rate, it might be closing in close to $70 by the end of this year, possibly, or stay in the 60 some range. Brand new copy of this game, if you're interested, is going for about $168. Next up, the fourth, another game I am happy to still have, but I only have it loose. Unfortunately, got it back in the day when Blockbuster was closing its doors. Rest in peace, Blockbuster. But it was a very interesting platformer that took place in outer space, with a pretty enjoyable comedian doing the voice of, and that is the interesting platformer called Blasto. A very unique platformer compared to many others. It does have definitely jankiness and has not aged very well, especially in the area of hitboxes. You will constantly die to your death, though technically you're in outer space, whatever. On average, it was going for around $25 last year. This year, it's going for about $27.50, so it's gone up about $2.50. Right now, I think it's going to stay relatively steady. It might go up a little, but I think it's going to stay pretty consistent in the $20 range area, 20 some range. I don't see it going up too much. Now, a brand new copy of this is actually under $100. You can find brand new copy on average range is going for about $74. Next up, we have the original classic Crash Bandicoot. Now, this has actually gone down somewhat, I'll be honest, and before I get to that part on this, I will say I do think it's still going to keep going down a little bit because there is less demand for the game, the fact you can get digitally, and the fact you have it in the Crash Insane trilogy. And yes, you're a hardcore PS1 collector, or you want to own all the original classic Crash games, which I don't blame you if you do. The only one I personally still have is Crash 2, my personal favorite. But original Crash was going for last year around this time about $38, which is still not that bad overall. As of this year, however, it's going for around $29, so it's all a decrease of $9 since last year. I think it's probably going to stay around the $30 range right now, honestly. It may go down a little bit more, but I think it's going to slow down and stay relatively steady. So I think it's probably going to go for between maybe the 28 to 32 range overall for at least a while to come. A new copy of Crash 1 will set you back around $77. Keep in mind, this is the black label version. This is not the greatest hits version price. That is going for less than that. Speaking of second to last, we go on to another game that's staying relatively strong. It hasn't skyrocketed in price because it got a remake done, plus even had a remaster released on the PSP back in the day. And that is a classic action platformer called Medieval, which I personally love, and I remember playing Medieval back years ago, renting it from Blockbuster Video Store, and I loved it. I loved the music, everything. I loved the main character. I didn't play a lot of Medieval 2, unfortunately, back in the day, and I need to get around. I have the PSP game remaster version and the remake of the original. I still want to get the chance to try get Medieval 2, though it's going for a bit more. But Medieval 1, right now, as of last year, it was going for about $38. This year, it's going for about $37, so it changed a total of $1. So I think it's going to stay relatively steady moving forward. I think it's going to stay in the upper 30s for now. could possibly make it to about the $40 range. I don't see it dropping down to like the low 30s. I think it's going to stay relatively strong at its current position. There's too many other versions out there of the first game to keep it from skyrocketing. But since there hasn't been really any re-releases or anything on Medieval 2, I think Medieval 2 will continue to go up. And we may talk that in a future video. Last but not least is one that arguably has really gone up in price over the last couple of years, specifically before the pandemic began. This game was trending for probably about, I believe it was trending for about like $130 to $150. So it was already pretty expensive, but then after the pandemic, it skyrocketed. It over doubled. And that is the classic game Klonoa. Now, the perk with Klonoa, which surprises me how it still keeps going up, I think it's because of its physical rarity. It was not a huge success here in America. It did better in Japan. It did relatively okay in the PAL region in Europe. But with that said, the fact with the announcement of the new Klonoa remaster of Klonoa 1 and 2, it's a big deal. Now, if you are interested in getting this game, you can get digitally on PSN for the Vita and for the PS1. It's also available on many other platforms as well. But if you are interested, I recommend getting the digital version for like $5.99. I personally have it on Vita and on PS3, so that's probably the best route to go. $6, worth it. But with that said, Klonoa 1 is trending for on average. Last year at this time it was around $295, so yeah, very expensive. And last year it was trending for or rather this year, January, it was going for around $515, so needless to say, it is definitely going for a lot of money. Nevertheless, that means just since last year, it has skyrocketed over $200 in 1 year. Now, what do I think it's going to do moving forward right now? I think it's going to stay relatively level. I think it's going to slow down and not gain a lot more price. It might actually go down a little, possibly drop into the 400s. But that remains to be seen, because it won't be until later this year that we get to see a remaster of Klonoa 1 and 2. But I'm still personally looking forward to that regardless. But it's going to be nice to get to play that remastered on digitally on PS4, which is what I'm going to do. I've already pre-ordered the physical version of Klonoa for the Switch. If you are curious about pre-ordering and get a physical version for the Nintendo Switch, you can pre-order it right now on PlayAsia.com, which I highly recommend. That is how I got my physical version of the Fatal Frame, Made in Blackwater, and how you can get many other great games that aren't being done by limited or strictly run games. Check out PlayAsia. It is a superb service. I've had so far nothing but positive experience with them. If you want a physical version of Klonoa 1 and 2 remaster, that's the route to go. It's relatively affordable. I think it's like $40 for the physical version, so get it if you get the chance. But with that said, that's it for this time on a new price charting list. And this was looking at 10 specific platformers for the PS1. Like I said, in the near future, I will be looking at some specifically fighting games for the PlayStation 2. So with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. And at Christmas, during Halloween this year, I will be doing a new price charting list for horror games. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, I'll see y'all soon enough. And quick, serious note, my prayers and everything is with the people of Ukraine right now, with all the garbage going on right now in Eastern Europe. Prayers and thoughts are with you, to any Ukrainians out there. Stay safe.